Here we see a good setup. Left hand's maybe a little strong. Maybe we shouldn't have the right thumb quite on top of the club. But not bad. Let's go ahead and draw the power line in here. This is the line we want everybody to move into. Then advance it. Pretty good takeaway. Stand nice and centered over the ball. Maybe a little too much backswing right there. So she lifts a little bit, loses her pelvic angle. So her hips kind of raise up a little bit. We want them staying pointing down. Drops the club back into the slot pretty nicely there. Getting good leverage. Turning through. But at this point now the hip should be more turned towards the target. She gets a little stuck there. That's why she's chickening. See, she has got no forward momentum to speak of. So we got to get her to have a little bit more forward momentum in the swing. Here we see another good setup again. Maybe the ball's a little back in her stance, but she could be trying to flight the ball flight lower. Let's watch the takeaway here. Nice steady takeaway. Headstand nice and quiet. There's the lift again that she did before. Too big. See where everything's lifting up at this point? So we're going to try to get her to stop there. There's where she's losing control of the golf club. Let's watch her rotate back into the shot. Better hip movement this shot than before. Moving into the front side. Now really try to drive the right hip, right elbow. See, the right hip quits moving. You've got to keep the right elbow off the right hip. So they're coming through together. But a better transition than before. What we'd like to see is this hip move forward to the line, that knee move forward to the line. We have a golfer here that probably needs to stand a little taller. If I draw a line down from his shoulders, notice they're way out past the toes. We need to get the shoulders just about over the big toe. So we're getting him to stand a little taller. He's got pretty good posture. If he stands a little taller, the arms will hang a little freer. But let's go ahead and take a look at the swing plane here. See if he stays below the swing plane, above the swing plane on the way back. A little bit of lifting there. See how much his hands lifted up and his whole spine is lifting up out of the shot. I think that's because he's too bent over to begin with. So what's happening is instead of just rotating the lead shoulder down his foot line like that, the lead shoulder is pulling away, going away from his foot line, going out. See how it's going out and continues to go out? So he's no longer on his swing plane like he was earlier. So we need to get Doug to get his spine a little taller so that his shoulder angle can be much more down to the ball instead of so upright. So we're going to continue this back. Now he's getting better shoulder position now. There, see how he has to drop down the shoulder to get back at the golf ball? Now he looks a little jammed up. Shoulders have come up. Club's coming well over the top. And he pops up out of the shot. Hits it pretty solid, though. Great rotation through to the finish. Here we see what's typical of a left-handed golfer, that the left shoulder is closer to the ball than the right shoulder. So he's got a very open stance, and he's aiming pretty much right at the net there, as you can see. So we're going to work on his stance a little bit. But let's go ahead and draw the swing plane in, see how he does. So he's turning back on the swing plane very nicely. Gets a little bit above the swing there and then comes back over the top. Instead of routing the club down like that, he's coming over the top. So he's going to have a little bit of a slice, and he comes in with the club a little bit under. See how his left hand is under the club? It needs to be a little bit more on top at this point. But good leg action, good rotation. This is the down the line view. See a pretty good posture right there, pretty straight back. Knees are flexed pretty well. Right shoulder's, a little bit open to the target line. But let's go ahead and draw the swing plane in. This wasn't on a tripod, so we're going to try to be as steady as can. We'll just draw another line down here, just so we can see how much movement I have in my camera. A little bit up and down, not much. Let's watch the takeaway now. A little shifting around. See what he's doing? He's lifting the club straight up on the way back and keeping the club face shut. It's not rotating the club face at all on the swing plane. So we need to get the toe more up in that position. Then he drops the club back nicely to the inside at this point. Now he's got the toe of the club up, rotates in, pretty good swing. Kind of a natural golf style swing. He could have his hands up a little higher if he wanted to, but this shorter abbreviated swing is going to work. Here we have a nicely balanced setup. Could be a little bit more tilted towards the ball. The spine may be a little too upright. We'll draw a line from the about where the hips are up through the ears. You can see that's a little too upright. I'd like to see the hips canted out a little bit. You can see that the belt line's pretty flat. So we're going to try to get him to push the hips back a little bit more and the back up a little bit so he gets a little bit more spine tilt and gets the pelvis more towards the ball. Let's go ahead and draw the swing plane in. We like to do that to see if we're staying on plane. That seems to be the moment of truth at impact. Are we on plane? Okay, lifting right there. Again, we see the telltale shoulder not going down to the golf ball at all, not making it under the chin, but getting almost level. And then he loses right there. He's way too close to his right ear with the golf club. The golf club needs to be back more on that line right there so he can drop the club back onto the ball. He's going to come over the top, very stiff lower body, not a lot of rotation there, flips the club through to the finish, and then rotates. So we got to get those hips rotating around like that sooner in the golf swing. Good setup here. Nice flex in the knees. You can see the belt line is pointed down towards the golf ball like it should be. Let's go ahead and draw our our plane in. That's a pretty good plane line right there, up just above the belt loops. Taking the club back nicely on plane. At this point right here, we see that the club is just about even with the hands. Very nice. What I don't like is take a look at that knee right there, that it's going out instead of turning towards the right knee. Let's see what happens if it continues. Yes, it continues to go out. So he's losing a bit of his coil on his right thigh. So he's going to come a little over the top as he slams that down. And not too bad. We can live with that. Ball's going to go. Very nice. Good solid shot. Good rotation to the hips. Very athletic golf swing. Well done. Not too bad of a setup here. I'd like to see the head up a little bit so that the ears are more in line with the shoulders. But more importantly, I'd like to see the hips pushed back so the butt is up a little bit more. Let's watch the takeaway here. Again, the shoulder's not quite rotating back, but this isn't too bad. Club's a little on the inside. There's a little lifting going on right there. See, there's the major lift. We've just pulled completely away from the ground. It's going to make it hard for it to get back down and make good solid contact with the ball in the ground. Let's watch what happens. Dropping the club in nicely right there. Beautiful position into the shot. Good rotation. Club coming through from the inside, rotating into the shot. But notice, didn't quite get back down to the ground. Notice now that her ear is up much higher than it was at setup. That seems to be the issue. So we're going to not try to keep the head down, but to try to keep that shoulder level, those spine angles set. Notice now the spine is straight up and down. So we have to turn, get that spine down a little bit more, leaning forward into the shot, and keep those hips pointed to the ground. Right on through to a great finish. Great leg action. We're missing the ball by about 3/4 of an inch. Not bad, but I think we can do better if we just keep the hips canted forward more during the swing. Good setup. Aiming right out here to this flag right there. Trying to do a nice, soft, easy swing. Club's going back a little too far to the inside, but not too bad. Hands are staying on the plane nicely. Right now he's in almost a perfect position. He's going to take the club up a little bit from there. And again, we got that left knee going out instead of in towards the right knee. We got to work on that a little bit. Let's drop the club back down. Now look how much head movement we got going. That's what's killing our accuracy. If we drop that head down, the hands have to come up. But he hit the ball pretty much at his target. See that? Pretty good result, all in all. We don't get to see the ball come down, but it was a pretty good shot. Congratulations. Once again, we have a golfer that appears to be bending from the waist instead of from the hips, pushing the hip sockets back so that the hips are more tilted towards the golf ball. Nice flex in the knees, very relaxed. Let's watch the takeaway. And then again, there goes that left shoulder out instead of down the target line. So the club ends up stuck behind him instead of up. So what we would like to do is from this position here, see the hands rotate up, not around behind me. So let's watch this. So he gets a little too flat, a little bit laid off. The left knee again has moved well far forward. Now he's right. If he'd have stopped right here, we'd have been okay. But then he continues on and then has to dive down to the golf ball. Does a great job of rerouting into the shot, pulling his knees and things out of the way. Little stiff-legged there at impact. See the right leg is just kind of straightened right up. No rotation at all of the right side into the golf ball. One of the things we can notice right away with this setup is that the ball is too far forward. It's almost in the driver position, and he's using a short iron. So we're going to watch it as he turns away from the shot. His shoulders aren't moving nearly as much in rotation as his arms are going. We want to see the shoulders rotate to take the club back, not just take the hands back. His chest isn't turning away. No shoulder rotation to speak of yet. Still no shoulder rotation. Good drive into the ball. Good athletic move right there. Very nice move right there. Good rotation to the hands. Everything was done really well, except you didn't rotate your shoulders on the way back. If we can add the shoulder rotation to the rest of that golf swing, you're going to have massive amounts of power and accuracy. Here we see a big, strong, powerful golfer who's been putting a lot of strain on his hip because of sciatica. And you're going to see a pretty good athletic move here. Let's watch the takeaway. Maybe just a little bit low and a little bit raising up. And again, we're having that trouble with that lead shoulder. Never quite gets down under the chin. We see that with most of our amateur golfers today. The left foot's a little too far off the ground. The left knee is pointing too much forward and not enough towards the right knee. Right knee straightened up a little bit, putting a little torque on that right hip. Then he's going to slam the foot down, which is a la Jack Nicklaus. But then he's moved his head back to the outside, and he's going to drop the club. But here's where it comes in pretty good right there. Look at that rotation. Everything worked together. A couple of flaws, but all in all a good swing and very powerful. Good posture. I would have her suck the abs in a little bit so that we don't have this bowing in the back right there. Push that out a little bit, but not bad. The arms need to be hanging a little more freely down. Notice that the arms aren't under the shoulders, but they're stuck out a little bit, so we don't have any angle from the hands to the club shaft. So what we do is we'd straighten the knees just a little bit, push the hips back, and let the arms drop down some. Now let's go ahead and draw the swing plane in, which you notice is pretty much straight up her arms. Kind of natural golf-like, Mo Norman. Keeping the club too shut on the way back. Means there's no rotation to the hands on the way through. Pretty stiff. And then she doesn't quite get those arms up parallel to her shoulders. She did a nice job of getting the shoulder under the chin, but now the hands have to be a little higher. She's going to drop the club down and drop her whole body down, turn into it. We have no wrist hinging going on, so we're not going to have a lot of power. She hits up on the ball, you can see right there, instead of driving down and into the ball. Good athleticism, but we need to get her hitting down on the ball and be a little bit more relaxed in the forearms. You see a pretty good setup here. I'd like to see the hands down a little bit so that we have more of an angle between the club shaft and the arms. Should be about 144 degrees. You see that one's almost straight. Let's go ahead and draw our swing plane in. Let's see what happens on the takeaway. Not bad. It's above the plane. I'd rather see that than below. But then there's no flex in the wrists at all. Again, very, very stiff. That's a great position. But if he would relax his forearms, the club would now be parallel to the ground. So you get to create a lot more whip and more release. We want to be able to fling that club head towards the target. Going to come down hard now. Pretty good position there. A lot of potential in this swing, but notice where his weight is. It's all on that back leg. Never quite gets transferred to the front side. Golf is all about momentum. We've got to get from the trail side to the front side. Move to the target. Throw your belly button to the stick. Okay, this setup is going to bring the club back to the inside. Once again, it's because I don't have enough hip tilt down. I don't have my pockets moving up, and my hands are too much out in front of my face instead of under my chin. So we're going to work on lowering the hands a little bit and getting the hips canted a little bit more forward. But let's go ahead and draw in our swing plane here. Right there. Make the turn. Yep, there goes the club well to the inside. It's almost have to do that with that setup so that the club now never makes it up to the shoulders, barely makes it back to the swing plane. So now there's no way to drop the club on the ball. She's got to swing up over the top. Does a great job controlling her hands. Comes into it, but because she's lost her spine angle, she's up and out of the shot. Can you see that? How the hips now are totally flat, not at all canted down. And we're going to continue to turn into the shot. Here we see a classic posture. Chin up, arms hanging down from the shoulders, knees flexed, back straight. Let's draw the swing plane in. Let's watch what goes on here. Nice takeaway. Club staying right on that swing plane, hands staying low. Look at the shoulders turning down and under the chin. Now there's a little lift here, so we got to get rid of that. We got to get the hands to come up without the body lifting up. Then she drops down nicely back into the swing plane. Hands are a little high, but makes good solid contact. That's the reason the ball's going out to the right is because the hands are up so high that it leaves the club face open. So we need to get the hands returning back to where they were at setup so she can rotate through the shot. Most of the time she does that very well. I'd like to see a better golf shaft to arm angle, something more like this to this. Well, obviously not the droop in the club, but the arms need to be hanging down a little bit more. She's got a good hip tilt. You can see that from the bottom of her blouse there. That looks pretty good. But with that kind of a setup, unless she's very good at just folding that right arm on the way back, the club's going to go way to the inside. Let's go ahead and clear that out. Let's just see what happens. We'll draw the swing plane back in here. Notice it's almost straight up the arms. We saw that earlier with another golfer. And the club comes way up high. That's not too bad. Let's see if she's able to route that club down. Now we got that flying right elbow. Let's see if she can tuck that elbow back into her side, into there. No, there goes the head dive. See that? That's what I was afraid of. When the head dives down like that, the right knee is straight, left knee is bent. She's out of position now. We've got to keep a bend in this knee here too, because that's our knee that we're pushing off from, and she can't push off, can't drive her hips around from there. Pulls up out of the shot. So work on keeping the right knee flexed. That'll let your head stay more stable. I don't want you to worry about keeping your head down. I want you to keep your right knee flexed and your hips pointed down towards the golf ball. What we're going to look for here is the golfer able to rotate the back of the lead hand towards the ground as he's coming into impact. So let's go ahead and watch the takeaway, if I can stay out of the way here. See there, he's rolled the hand over. That's kind of a mistake. We want him to start. Now he's got the back of the hand to the ground. You can see the club is squaring up. Now turn the hand over more, coming in. Pretty solid, but stiff-legged. Trying something new. Didn't quite work for him, but what we want to do is we want to get the back of the left hand firm and to the ground at impact, especially with our wedges. We're going to start this swing from right here, part way back, because what you can see is that he's lost his spine angle. He's almost standing straight up at this point. Still is able to get a good shot off, but again, like we've seen all day today, we don't have that hips down to the golf ball. The hips are almost straight up, and in his case, they're actually pointing up a little bit at this point. Got to keep that butt out and up. So let's watch as he turns further into the shot. He's going to have some great little leg action right here. Watch this. See how the legs are turning into the shot? Really nicely done. Good rhythm and tempo. Head's very quiet, turns through the shot. I'd like to see a little bit more showing me the spikes of the foot there. But all in all, that was a pretty good swing, especially what you're trying to do, a little 30-yard pitch. Very nicely done, very smooth.